Hello, this is Required Fields, and in this video I'm going to be discussing some more of the albums that I've been spinning as of late. And yep, so let's get to the next installment of my What's Been Spinning series. I'm going to start off this with Torture Squad. This is their newest album, Far Beyond Existence, and this is their first full-length release with their brand new vocalist, Mayra Undead Puertas. They have a female vocalist now, which is very uncommon for this genre of metal. They're a mixture of death metal and thrash metal, so it's no surprise I love this band as much as I do. And this is their newest album, Far Beyond Existence. It's a shame that there's hardly anyone that seems to be discussing this as one of the best metal albums of 2017. I know that when I make that list, this album is clearly going to have a spot there. And anyways, my favorite tracks in here are probably Don't Cross My Path, the opener, Blood, Sacrifice, and Steady Hands. And the band does break some new ground with the instrumental track Torture in Progress, which actually features a Hammond organ. I guess they're showing their, I guess they're actually kind of just trying to actually do what Deep Purple might have done if they were if they were to collaborate with a death thrash hybrid band or something like that. But it's kind of neat to see them do something a little bit different on that track there. And so yep, this is definitely one of the best albums of the year. Torture Squad, Far Beyond Existence. It's too bad the band doesn't have very good distribution outside of Brazil. They're a Brazilian band, because this band needs more recognition very easily. They're a great band. This is a band called Desolation Angels. This is a special 30th anniversary limited edition of their self-titled debut, which was released in 1986. They're part of the NWO-BHM movement, but they didn't get to releasing a full-length album until 1986. In the early 80s, all they put out was singles. So by 1986, NWO-BHM was pretty much done for. But if this band had been able to put out their debut albums 3 or 4 years sooner, then I think that Lars Ulrich would be promoting them as one of the best metal bands of that era, because that's exactly the type of metal that he's an expert on. And I imagine that that he would be someone who would love this album. Anyways, of the tracks on it, Evil Possessor, the second track on it, is probably my favorite on it. But yeah, really cool CD. The band actually moved to America after this, and they recorded another album, and then they broke up, and they've since reformed, released an EP, which I haven't yet heard, so I can't say if it's in the same style or a different style or whatever. But yes, this EP is, this is actually a full-length album, but this album is pretty good stuff if you like the whole NWO-BHM thing. Not sure if it really qualifies as an NWO-BHM era album, because it's a little late for the party, and by 1986 the main movements of metal had gone towards thrash metal, and you had traditional metal and other bands trying who were taking their sounds in different directions. But yeah, this is a good album, definitely worth checking out if you're into the NWO-BHM sound. And this is a brutal death metal band called Abnormal Inhumane, and this is their 2016 album, Consuming the Infinity. And it's a good brutal death metal album if you're into bands like Deeds of Flesh, would be a good comparison point for this band. And there's 10 tracks on here. The album's only a little bit over a half hour, not uncommon for brutal death metal. My favorite track on here would be the closer, Transcendental Elements. Although one thing that's a bit of a drawback here is the lack of guitar solos. In fact, the closer, Transcendental Elements, is the only track on here which has a guitar solo. And while I do like this release, I do think that Abnormal Inhumane can take the next step forward and add more solos in their next release. I think they'd really knock it in the park if they did that. But as for now, where it stands, Consuming the Infinity is a good sophomore effort. I actually have yet to actually hear their debut. This was my introduction to the band, but it's a good brutal death metal release. and this is Manila Road, To Kill a King. This is their newest release, and it was released a few months ago. And Manila Road formed back in the 1970s and released their first album in 1980. I own most of their albums that they've done, and my favorite overall would be The Deluge, their 1986 release, as well as their 1987 album Mystification. And Manila Road broke up in 1992 and got back together in 1994. But they, after 1990s, The Courts of Chaos, and during the breakup, there was an album that was released under the Manila Road name, but it's really not an official Manila Road album. It was meant to be released under a different name, but so it doesn't really it doesn't purely count in the Manila Road catalog. They reformed in 1994, but only played local shows for a while and didn't release any new music until the 2000s. And in their 2000s era, while The Blessed Curse, their 2015 album, the one they came up before, this is probably a favorite. This one is a good one as well, although I definitely prefer The Blessed Curse. But To Kill a King is definitely the opening track, the title track, 10 minutes in length, is definitely the best track on the album and one of the best metal songs of 2017 easily. But yeah, that's Manila Road, To Kill a King. And closing off this video is Mass Infection, The Age of Recreation. This is a brutal death metal band who have 3 albums overall. This one is the second album of theirs, and I'd recommend this to fans of Suffocation and Deeds of Flesh. And this is their second full-length album, The Age of Recreation. My favorite track on here is the closer, Equal to Slime, which is which is also interesting because I don't own the debut yet, but in their most recent album, For I Am Genocide, the highlight of that album is also the closing track, The Genocide Revealed. So what can I say here? Mass Infection totally knows how to close out an album. This is definitely a good death metal release. So yeah, there you go. There's some more albums I've been spinning lately. Thank you for watching this video. This is Required Field signing off, and goodbye.